I want to take you through the journey of Crystal and James's relationship from when it started to where it is now. And through that ride, I hope you guys realize that these two just made an incredibly good decision. We're going to talk about some of the firsts that happened in this relationship, some of the first impressions. Because what you might not realize is that the love that these two share for one another, which will be apparent in the next few hours and for the rest of their lives, wasn't exactly reciprocated when they first met. In fact, it was pretty one-sided. So if you know James, he falls hard and he falls deep. And it was very easy for him to fall for Crystal. Not so much the other way around. When they first met, James was volunteering at the Capello school where Crystal worked. And I asked Crystal, I said, why didn't it work out at first? Why didn't it work out? She said, well, he showed up late, he wore sweatpants into work, he smelled from working out, and all he talked about was his personal best on the hang clean the day before. And he just kept staring at his forearms that he shaved that morning. I said, that doesn't sound like James. I don't understand that. But then she kept trying to give him a shot. She kept trying. Didn't last a week. She pulled James aside and she said, James, listen, it's not working out. These kids aren't named Dude. You can't call them Dude, all right? They're not taking you seriously. It's just not working. So she requested that James be transferred within a week, and he was. But James was undeterred. He was undeterred until she looked him in the eyes and she said, James, to be honest, I just don't like your face. That's a lie. She didn't say that. She did like his face. She liked it a lot. And that's why when James blackmailed his aunt into forcing Crystal to give James her number, she wasn't that against it. So James got Crystal's number, and it went off from there. If you know anything about James, when he gets his two thumbs working on a mobile device, it's an amazing thing. He turns from James DiVincenzi into James Patterson, or Bill Shakespeare, whatever reference you want to go through. I know we have an age range here. Okay? He is a wordsmith when it comes to this kind of communication. And that's how he kept Crystal on the line. So there's two people that we really need to thank in bringing these two here together. One is Mike Lazaridis. He's the inventor of the BlackBerry. And another is one Frederick Miller, the founder of the Miller Brewing Company. Without those two assets, James would never have been able to woo Crystal. So the nights got long, the texts started flying. We were down in North Carolina, and every night at 2 a.m., James would find himself with a bowl of spinach dip, his BlackBerry, and a whole lot of love for Crystal. And all we kept hearing about was this angel Crystal. He could not stop talking about her. He offered to buy her a flight to come down for a day to North Carolina. She almost said yes, because she really liked his face, and his traps and his triceps too. So James was able to get his first date with Crystal. And if you ever saw James play baseball, he would swing for the fences, completely out of his shoes. Didn't make contact often, but when he did, he hit this thing a mile. The first date, he swung and missed. He swung and missed. This time, instead of just talking about hang cleans, all he talked about were some submission moves that he learned in some dojo in one of his weird MMA phases. So it didn't go particularly well. But he kept going. He kept going. And then he found himself at a local watering hole in Hightstown with Crystal and some of her friends, and he hit the ball out of the park. And from there, the relationship started. It went from darn near hatred to appreciation to love. The first time Crystal met James's dad, she was very, very nervous. It was a snowstorm. Mr. DiVincenzi had to come and fix James's car for him because the battery was dead. Crystal was full of energy, as she always is, ready to meet Mr. DiVincenzi. Mr. DiVincenzi was not happy. But James found this as an opportunity for him to impress Crystal. I can show her how I can fix a car. So he takes the jumper cable from his dad, rubs it together, puts it on the battery and goes, "Ah!" and electrocuted himself. Lying on his back, convulsing, You have Crystal, Mr. DiVincenzi, and James on the ground. The first time James met Crystal's mom, he gave her a hug and she said, James, you have something on your face. He said, that's ringworm. It's the whole story. He had ringworm.
It's true.
That happened. So then as the relationship grew, they started doing things that they never thought that they would be doing. Crystal was flipping tires and climbing stadium steps and throwing sledgehammers and loving every second of it. James was going to hockey games. JD knows as much about hockey as I do about nutrition, all right? It's not much, but he finds himself decked out in New Jersey Devils gear, and they're at a hockey game, and they're in an argument. And Crystal says, James, why are you so upset? And he said, it's because I love you. She looked at him and she said, you have mustard on your face. That's a lie too. Immediately, she said, I love you back. And then you start to realize why they work, why Crystal and James work. And you start to think about who they are as people. Crystal is so good at what she does. She's excellent at her job. And you look at what it is. It's giving yourself up for others to help others who aren't as fortunate as you. Giving away yourself every single day and making other people happy on a daily basis, one of the most commendable things in the world. Crystal's one of the most genuine, caring people I have ever met in my life. She controls the room, she makes everybody happy, she makes everybody laugh, and it is so effortless because it's exactly who she is. She doesn't have to try at all. On the other side, with James, I always said James was the perfect friend and the perfect teammate. Whenever you were upset, you could always count on James to do something ridiculous to put a smile on your face and make you forget about anything you were upset about. All the time, you could always count on James. He didn't go out of his way to do it. It was just him being him all the time. And I love him for it. So you realize they're together because they like each other's face, obviously. But they're also together because they're an absolute perfect fit for one another. They finally found somebody that they deserved, that was as selfless as they are. And we're very, very happy for them today. I asked Crystal what she was most excited about during this wedding. She said, first and foremost, that her grandma's here today. She remembers dancing with her grandma when she was young. Now, some 20-odd years later, she's going to be busting a move with her grandma on the dance floor at her wedding. But she said, more than that, no offense to grandma, she's excited to call this man that she's been in love with for such a long time her husband. That's a pretty cool thing. I'll end on this note. The first time I ever realized that I would no longer be teammates with James was at a senior spring sports awards banquet at the Hun School. And I finally realized at that time that I would never be able to play with James ever again. And I remember when our coach went around and talked about everybody. When he talked about James, I completely broke down. It was weird. I cried more than I've probably ever cried in my entire life because that realization just crushed me. Because I knew that the best teammate that I've ever had in any sport, I'd never be able to share that with him again. But I look back on that and I mention that today because, Crystal, you never have to experience that feeling. And James, you never have to experience that feeling about Crystal. You guys are on the same team. There's no going to college. There's no getting traded. You're together for the rest of your lives. With marriage comes sacrifice and comes compromise. Mrs. DiVincenzi has had to deal with Mr. DiVincenzi on fall Sundays, raking the leaves with a gray sweaty tank top and singing Bruce Springsteen at the top of his lungs and really creeping out the neighbors. So she not only deals with that, but she learns to love that. So I have questions for you guys before we get into the vows. James, on a December Sunday, when the Giants are playing the Cowboys for a spot in the playoffs, and Crystal wants to watch Michael Jackson's This Is It for the 89th time, will you be able to deal with that? It's a good answer. Crystal, when James bursts through the front door like a burglar in the night because he had jalapenos on his pizza the night before, will you be able to deal with that?
I already have, baby.
All right. Good answer. Let's get you two married, huh? Say I do after what I say here. Got it? Okay.
Got it, baby.
Do you, James, accept Crystal as your life mate and one true love, promising to share in all that life offers and suffers, to be there for her in times of need, to soothe her in times of pain, and to support her in all endeavors, big and small?
I do.
Do you, Crystal, accept James as your life mate and one true love, promising to share in all that life offers and suffers, to be there for him in times of need, to soothe him in times of pain, and to support him in all endeavors, big and small?
I do.
Coach, the rings, please. Very nice. James, repeat after me. I, James, give you, Crystal,
I, James, give you, Crystal,
this ring as an eternal symbol
this ring as an eternal symbol
of my love and commitment to you.
of my love and commitment to you.
This ring is a token of my love.
This ring is a token of my love.
I marry you with this ring,
I marry you with this ring,
with all that I have and all that I am.
with all that I have and all that I am.
I give you this ring
I give you this ring
as a visible and constant symbol
as a visible and constant symbol
of my promise to be with you
of my promise to be with you
for as long as I live.
for as long as I live.
Crystal? Got it? There we go. Crystal, repeat after me. I, Crystal, give you, James,
I, Crystal, give you, James,
this ring as an eternal symbol
this ring as an eternal symbol
of my love and commitment to you.
of my love and commitment to you.
This ring is a token of my love.
This ring is a token of my love.
I marry you with this ring,
I marry you with this ring,
with all that I have and all that I am.
with all that I have and all that I am.
I give you this ring
I give you this ring
as a visible and constant symbol
as a visible and constant symbol
of my promise to be with you
of my promise to be with you
for as long as I live.
for as long as I live.
I now pronounce you husband and wife. James, you may now kiss the bride. Introducing the new Mr. and Mrs. DiVincenzi, everybody.